On November 25, 1783, General George Washington marched into New York City as the last of the defeated British Army sailed homeward. Washington had disbanded his army several weeks earlier, and on December 4th, he gathered with his officers in Fraunces Tavern to say farewell. Colonel Benjamin Talmadge recalled the event in his memoirs.
At 12 o'clock, the officers repaired to Fraunces Tavern in Pearl Street, where General Washington had appointed to take his final leave of them. We had been assembled but a few moments when His Excellency entered the room. The general filled his glass with wine and, turning to the officers, said, "With a heart full of love and gratitude, I now take leave of you. I most devoutly wish that your latter days may be as prosperous and happy as your former ones have been glorious and honorable. I cannot come to each of you, but shall feel obliged if each of you will come and take me by the hand." General Knox, being nearest to him, turned to the Commander-in-Chief who, suffused in tears, was incapable of utterance, but grasped his hand when they embraced each other in silence. In the same affectionate manner, every officer in the room marched up and parted with his General-in-Chief.
Many artists have illustrated episodes from Washington Irving's Rip Van Winkle, which was first published in 1819 and has since become a favorite with American children. During the 1860s and 70s, the story was revived on the stage with the actor Joseph Jefferson giving many performances as the Foolish Rip. This sculpture by Frederick McMoonies shows the moment when Rip first awakes after his 20-year slumber.
He rubbed his eyes. It was a bright, sunny morning. "Surely," thought Rip, "I have not slept here all night." He recalled the occurrences before he fell asleep. The strange man with a keg of liquor, the mountain ravine, the wild retreat among the rocks, the woebegone party at Ninepins, the flagon. "Oh, that flagon, that wicked flagon," thought Rip. "What excuse shall I make to Dame Van Winkle?"
Abbot Henderson Thayer painted this portrait of two of his children, Mary and Gerald, a year after their mother was hospitalized for depression. Before her mother fell ill, however, Mary Thayer was a mischievous child who spent many summer days playing in the woods with her younger brother. A favorite prank of hers was to cover large holes with leaves and twigs so that people might fall into them. An entry in Mary's diary from 1888 describes how her father and older sister Gladys fell for this trick.
Sunday, June 17th. Gerald and I took our dinner with us and went into the pine woods, where we spent most of the morning and ate our dinner. On our way home through the woods, we met my papa and Gladys. We walked about in the woods for a while, gathering wild strawberries, and happened to go right to the place where the holes which Gerald and I had covered were. And my papa, who was walking ahead carrying Gladys, fell right into the largest one, the one we covered first. But neither he nor Gladys were hurt at all.
Paul Manship created a sculpture of Prometheus to stand above the skating rink at Rockefeller Center in New York City. In a 1959 interview, the sculptor described the commission.
At the time this work was initiated, they gave me, they said, a free hand to design whatever sort of statue I thought would fit the place best. Then I learned that not only was there this art committee, but there was also the owner to be considered. The Rockefeller family, Mr. John D. Jr. especially. So I started out making sketches, making drawings, and getting ideas until, after I think a dozen sketches or more, the present figure of Prometheus was brought into composition.
The golden statue was installed in 1934 and stands at the base of a 70-story building at one end of the plaza. In his autobiography, Norman Rockwell described how difficult it was to find animals to pose for his paintings.
After I had discovered where a dog lived, I had to persuade his owner to let me take him up to my studio. Some of the owners thought that I was the dog catcher, or just crazy. One old lady who'd seen me chasing dogs about the neighborhood accused me of an inveterate and perverse taste for dog meat. But finding the dog was nothing to posing him. I'd set him up on the model stand, pushing down on his haunches. He'd sit quietly for a few minutes, staring at me. Then he'd catch sight of his tail out of the corner of his eye and determine he'd put a stop to that impudent wagging before long. Then it would be a flea behind his ear. Then he'd take exception to the way I was holding my brushes and prance about the model stand, barking.
Rockwell's persistence and patience helped him to create some of the most endearing images of man's best friend in American art.
In his 1947 book, the sculptor William Zorak described what he believed made a successful sculpture.
Rules can be given for modeling clay, for cutting stone, and for carving wood, but art cannot be produced by any set of rules. Art is not a cold-blooded working out of problems. The value of a work of art lies in the amount of life and expression that the artist puts into his work, and the quality of that life and expression. This cannot be attained by repeating what other artists have done. Each artist must evolve his own forms. He must express what he knows and feels. He must use the materials at his command in such a way that his emotion or idea is communicated to those who behold what he has created. An artist can carve a stone, and under his touch it becomes alive. It has the power to stir the imagination.